Men came at dawn through the main gate to this town of just over 1,000 people, burning, shooting, slaughtering. Now this kibbutz is a mass grave and still an active fighting zone. We're told terrorists have still been found hiding. This day, IDF guns pointed at Gaza, just beyond the barbed wire. One soldier we saw on duty there has served 25 years in the army.
What we saw here, nothing can prepare you for this kind of brutality, of evil, pure evil. So you ask me, how do I feel? Determined, very determined.
Determined because here you breathe the crime. Through your nose, your mouth, the presence of human death hits us.
This family that lived here were the Haddads. Their names on the outside. On the floor inside, we saw a bus pass for one of them. And this is their home, completely charred, destroyed.
This is the front garden. Everything is now dead.
I'm standing inside someone's home where they were celebrating. Exercise bike behind me, everything burnt and destroyed. In the kitchen, even on the refrigerator, the charred remains of all the pictures that somebody would have just had on the outside of their fridge. The medicine containers that you would label by day to make sure you took the right pills every day. All of that, just part of a normal life left behind.
Home after home after home. Here, someone was a bike rider. Here, someone loved gardening. That life now gone. Now bulletproof vests worn by Hamas and zip ties lie outside this home. Evidence Hamas was ready to tie up many more victims. And still, it is the children that no human can comprehend. We learned the fate of one of them.
We opened the door, we saw a baby girl room, 4 months old. The entire room is upside down, and the baby lying on the floor. Her hands.
Burned?
No. She was so beautiful with her pajama. Shot in her head.
He says they carried her outside like an angel, an infant. And children's toys and drawings are scattered everywhere in Beirut.
In this house, you see children's homework, children's books, a deck of cards just spread out here along the ground. There was clearly fighting inside this house. Outside this house, Arabic graffiti, name of a brigade, Al-Qassam Brigade. Arabic writing displayed all the way along the outside, bullet holes in the glass as we walked in.
The words also say Allah Akbar and victory. Only there is no victory here, only death and hate.
Since Saturday morning, we're dealing with a holy mission, not less.
A holy mission?
A holy mission, yeah. Holy, not less.
Hey y'all, I'm Daryl Worley, and I've just recently teamed up with Leatherwood Distillery to create some spirits, a line of spirits to raise money for our veterans. For lots of different situations, especially the least we can do is to give a little something back. So we're trying to raise money to save lives, and we'd appreciate your help. If you're like me, I hear people say we don't need this war. I say there's some things worth fighting for. What about our freedom and this piece of ground? We didn't get to keep them by backing down. They say we don't realize the mess we're getting in. Before you start your preaching, let me ask you this, my friend. Have you forgotten how it felt that day to see your homeland under fire and her people blown away? Have you forgotten when those towers fell. We had neighbors still inside, going through a living hell. And you say we shouldn't worry about Bin Laden. Have you forgotten?
אז הדפס שלנו מגולני, הכובסת היא משדרות, השכן שלנו בקומה מלמעלה כבר חודש מזיז כיסאות, מנהל הקהילה הגבוה עושה משמרות בחמ"ל, קשת ריכזה את כל התרומות ועכשיו היא חוקרת חלל. הכובסת היא משדרות, השכן אז הדפס שלנו מגולני, הכובסת היא משדרות, השכן שלנו אז הדפס שלנו מגולני, הכובסת היא משדרות, השכן שלנו בקומה מלמעלה כבר חודש מזיז כיסאות, מנהל הקהילה הגבוה עושה משמרות בחמ"ל, קשת ריכזה את כל התרומות ועכשיו היא חוקרת חלל. גילי מזכיר הקיבוץ הקשוח מבלה עם כולם במלון, לאט לאט השתלטנו פה ופתחנו גם את הקניון, והאבידה שלנו כפרה שלרוב מגדל וחיטה, הוא לוחם אמיתי מתאושש בגבורה, איך אתה מעורר השראה כאן. נכון כולם נראים רגילים אבל זה קיבוץ של גיבורי על, בכל אחד מסתתר חבר יקר שמתמודד עם האתגר. המטפלות שלנו כאן שפותחות תמיד בזמן, מקבלות הילדים בחיבוק אמיתי בקומה 3 בגן, ויש את המדריכים בזוגון שהקפיאו תואר ראשון, ולמרות הכל הם עובדים קשה כל יום מסביב לשעון. יש פה דוגמנית פרמדיקית, יש פה חשמלאי שהוא טוטיסט, יש את חוגי נגן התופים המחונן שהוא קודם כל טנקיסט, יש לכולם כאב נסתר ואנחנו זועקים בכיכר, יש לנו דף מסרים והמון ביקורים ובדפוס אחד נהדר. ונכון כולם נראים רגילים אבל זה קיבוץ של גיבורי על, בכל אחד מסתתר חבר יקר שמתמודד עם האתגר. וזה לא משנה אם באמצע היום או באמצע ישיבת מזכירות, כולם יעזבו את הכל בשנייה אם יקראו לכיתת כוננות, פה זה לא יקום מקביל או איזה סרט בדיוני, זה הסיפור שלנו קיבוץ בארי, זה הסיפור שלנו. ונכון כולם נראים רגילים אבל זה קיבוץ של גיבורי על, בכל אחד מסתתר חבר יקר שמתמודד עם האתגר.
משפחת בארי היקרה, עם חיבוק גדול ותקווה לימים טובים יותר, תשמרו על עצמכם, אוהבים אתכם, משפחת התקווה 6.
זה הסיפור שלנו קיבוץ בארי, זה הסיפור שלנו. ונכון כולם נראים רגילים אבל זה קיבוץ של גיבורי על, בכל אחד מסתתר חבר יקר שמתמודד עם האתגר. גילי מזכיר הקיבוץ הקשוח מבלה עם כולם במלון. לאט לאט השתלטנו פה ופתחנו גם את הקניון. והאבידה שלנו כפרה, שלרוב מגדל וחיטה. הוא לוחם אמיתי, מתאושש בגבורה, איך אתה מעורר השראה כאן. נכון כולם נראים רגילים, אבל זה קיבוץ של גיבורי על. בכל אחד מסתתר חבר יקר שמתמודד עם האתגר. המטפלות שלנו.
For the first time in 4 months on Sunday, Hamas fired rockets into Tel Aviv. The attack sent millions running into bomb shelters. Hamas launched those rockets out of Rafah, where Israel is fighting to defeat the terror group in its last major stronghold.
Hamas is choosing to continue this war by refusing to release our hostages and continuing to attack Israel. Hamas is holding 125 of our people hostage across our border in Gaza.
The Israel Defense Forces say they're continuing their operations in Gaza, including Rafah, since they're fighting in accordance with last week's ruling by the International Court of Justice. A senior Israeli official said the court said not to commit genocide, and Israel is not committing genocide while fighting according to international law. In Rafah, the IDF says it's eliminated the Hamas chief of staff who directed terror activities in Judea and Samaria and was responsible for funding operations in Gaza and attacks where IDF soldiers were killed. Hamas health authorities say at least 35 Palestinians were killed in Israeli airstrikes. Israel says a fire spread into an area with civilians. On Israel's northern border, Hezbollah fired dozens of rockets into Israel. Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah also welcomed the announcement by Norway, Ireland, and Spain they will recognize a Palestinian state. Norway and Spain say they'll do it by tomorrow, May 28th. But a Palestinian human rights advocate wrote that recognizing a Palestinian state after October 7th would send a dangerous message that sexual violence and terrorism against civilians can successfully achieve political gains. In Tel Aviv, thousands gathered at the funeral of Hanan Yablanka, a Brazilian Israeli whose body was recovered in Gaza after he was murdered by Hamas at the Nova Music Festival. His mother delivered a message to Hamas.
I want to say to Hamas, you will never beat us, never, never. The Jews were always murdered because they were Jews. It didn't work for anyone, and it won't work either.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Notice how pinpointed the attack is, that the building on the left and the building on the right go down, and the building in the middle does not go down. And understand in the same way that what happened the other day, where Israel dropped a bomb and it led to killing 2 leaders in Hamas, and then afterwards 34 other Arabs in Gaza died as well. Israel was bombing those 2 with a smaller precision bomb, and shrapnel from that bomb then hit a nearby fuel tank and set off fire. And that fire went wild and ended up burning down more people. That was not the target. A lot of things can be derived from that incident. Number one, if Israel wasn't even aiming at civilians, but a bombing pinpointed at someone else, ended up killing 34 Arabs. Imagine if Israel really wanted to commit genocide, how easy it would be to wipe out the entire population in Rafah already. If they weren't even pointing at them, and 34 died. Before the time of the Civil War in the United States, there was an interesting incident. The first fired shot that set off the Civil War was when General Beauregard, under orders from the command, set his sights and launched his fire against Fort Sumter in South Carolina, a fort of the United States of America. And the Confederate States, its first act was to take the American fort, Fort Sumter. And so Beauregard and his troops defeated Fort Sumter, came to Fort Sumter to take control and take prisoner 1,500 United States soldiers and their commander, Robert Anderson. General Anderson, actually, historical factoid, was a professor, had been a professor at West Point, and Beauregard had been one of his favorite students. And now Beauregard was shooting on his mentor, one of the many ironies of the Civil War. So Anderson asked Beauregard, may I at least, before we're taken in, may the flag of the United States of America has been bombed to shreds during this battle. May I offer a 50-gun salute simply in honor of the flag? Now, the way the world works now, it's almost inconceivable that people would have that level of decency that they would permit that. But it was a different time, and there were rules, other kinds of rules of civility during war. And Beauregard said, absolutely, you may do a 50-gun salute to the shredded American flag. And then you're coming into custody. So they did a 50-gun salute. And while shooting off the gun, one of the shots set fire to a storage pack of gunpowder and ended up killing one of the Union soldiers. That's what happens. Sometimes a bullet hits gunpowder unintentionally. And that's what happens. During the Afghan War, America on several occasions knowingly dropped bombs, aerial bombs on packages, on groupings of civilians below. And then it turned out they bombed a wedding party. And it happened more than once. Knocked out 2 or 3 weddings, everybody at the wedding. It happens. Is it the American way to kill out opposing countries' wedding parties? No, that happens. Last week, we even saw sometimes 1945, World War II, Harry Truman sent bombers to drop atomic bombs, not on military targets at all, but just specifically on civilians. And we actually saw the film. The bombing of Hiroshima we know about, but the interesting thing we learned last week is that Nagasaki wasn't even meant to be the target. A guy was sent to drop an atomic bomb on a city in Japan and was told, if you don't have good visibility, if it's cloudy, just go to the next city and kill out that city instead. And that's what happened. It was a cloud cover over the first target, so I'll wipe out a different city instead. It wasn't even the intended target, but I have an atomic bomb here to kill hundreds of thousands of people. It's a shame for it to go to waste. So they dropped it on Nagasaki. For anybody to lecture Israel over the deaths of these 34 to 45 Arabs in Gaza in the time of war, when 1 million of the 1.4 million in Rafah already got out, and these people decided to stay in the face of fire, knowing that their very presence is preserving and protecting Hamas, who hide behind them and have tunnels underneath their homes. No apologies. No apologies are due. No other country would offer apologies. We continue.
לב רפיח, טנקים של צה"ל פועלים בעומק העיר.
This is in Rafiach. Israeli tanks, this week's news. Israeli tanks going slowly through Rafiach in order not to miss anything and to accomplish the desired goal.
התמרון מתקדם לאט להישג הנדרש, השמדת 4 גדודי רפיח של חמאס.
The goal is to wipe out the 4 battalions, Hamas battalions in Rafiach.
צוותי הקרב של חטיבות 401 והנחל פעלו במהלך הלילה על ציר פילדלפי ממערב לעיר.
They were going through and patrolling the western part of Rafiach along what's called the Philadelphia corridor. It's the border between Gaza and Egypt. And under that border, there are 20 different tunnels at least through which Hamas smuggles in weapons through Egypt. And therefore, the purpose of this particular exercise along the Philadelphia corridor is to wipe out all the infrastructure of terror and specifically those tunnels that go into Egypt.
במאמץ להשמיד תשתיות טרור ובעיקר מנהרות חודרות למצרים, המטרה לחנוק את רפיח מדרום ולסגור את מעבר אמצעי הלחימה הרבים שזרמו לרצועה, עדיין כנראה זרמו במהלך המלחמה.
The goal is to cut off Rafiach and Hamas from their supplies in Egypt, which have even apparently been going on during the course of the Gaza War. They have been resupplying regularly from Egypt through their tunnels. And that's something you don't hear about in the media, that an important part of the Rafah exercise is to wipe out those tunnels and stop the resupply opportunities.
חטיבת הנחל שפועלת מצפון מערב לעיר הצליחה בימי פעילותה לאתר אמצעי לחימה רבים במרחב ולחסל לא מעט מחבלים.
While attacking Israel, while the IDF has been in northwest Rafah, they have wiped out not a small number of terrorists. This particular representative soldier, for example, is saying he's from Battalion 931, and he's saying that we had a very tough battle in the underground, under the ground, against Hamas, and we sustained casualties, but they got worse.
אנחנו אחרי יום של התקלות עם מחבלים בתוך התת קרקע, המחבלים האלו הושמדו.
בין אמצעי הלחימה שהותרו והושמדו עשרות רימונים.
And this is, you don't see this in the American news. This is what was revealed under those tunnels in Rafah, like when Biden and Blinken, you know, they want Israel to stop the Rafah thing, and this is what was awaiting Jews in Israel had it not been uncovered and seized. All kinds of hand grenades and bombs and rockets and all kinds of murderous weapons.
מטענים, חגורות נפץ ורקטות.
מצאנו פה מחסן אמל"ח מאוד משמעותי עם הרבה מאוד פצמ"רים וטילים שמיועדים לתוך שטח ישראל.
We found a substantial amount of serious weapons that were going to be targeted at people in Israel, even to the cities of like Ashdod and even north of Ashdod.
אזור אשדוד וגם צפונה, אתם יכולים לראות משקיות עם חומרי נפץ.
And gunpowder and fire powder.
הרבה מאוד מטענים נגד אדם ונגד טנקים.
Anti-tank weapons.
רקע התקרית במעבר רפיח והתקיפה שבמהלכה חוסלו 2 בכירי חמאס ביומיים האחרונים, בדרג הצבאי ממתינים עם הפקודה הסופית לכיבוש מלא של רפיח ומעדיפים להאט את הקצב על מנת למקסם הישגים בשאיפה לא להגיע למה שקרה בצפון הרצועה.
This time in Rafah, they're going in a little bit more slowly in order to maximize sweeping out and destroying all vestiges of Hamas. By contrast, they feel they learned from their earlier months of fighting in northern Gaza that they might have gone a little bit too quickly, and while they achieved great achievements, wiping out so much of the Hamas leadership and infrastructure and seizing weapons and destroying tunnels up north, they feel in retrospect they may have gone a little too quickly, and therefore thereby inadvertently missed some of the remaining Hamas fighters and supplies and tunnels, and as a result, now they're in the south, some of those surviving Hamas terrorists and their surviving weapons and tunnels are posing enough a problem that the IDF Tzahal has had to go back into the north to sweep out the rest. So here they're going a bit more slowly in Rafiach, and that's why they're not just racing through to keep Biden happy.
צה"ל נאלץ לחזור לשטחים שתיאר. התמונות האלה כבר מגיעות מצפון הרצועה, לעבר שכונת ג'באליה. כוחותינו פועלים כאן במלוא העוצמה, המטרה לשטח ולהרוס כל בית חשוד שמאתרים בו תשתיות טרור, ובעיקר לוודא שלא נותרו מנהרות לחימה ומסתור, ואולי גם להביא בשורות נוספות בסוגיית החטופים.
Likewise, they're back in Jabalia after having already had great success and left Jabalia, because once again, they're trying to wipe out the remnants of the Hamas terrorists and continue finding underground terror tunnels, and for all they know, possibly to find hostages or bodies of hostages.
ולמרחב האחרון שבו עדיין פועלים כוחותינו, מרכז הרצועה.
And likewise, Sahel troops are back in central Gaza.
צוות הקרב של חטיבה 679 מעמיק את השליטה בציר נצרים. הלוחמים איתרו והשמידו מחבלים שנמצאו בקרבת מקום. לאחרונה החיכוך בציר נצרים שחוצה את הרצועה ממזרח למערב מתגבר. מדובר בנכס אסטרטגי שאפשר שכוחותינו יצטרכו לאחוז בו במשך שנים רבות.
And it's beginning to look like Israel will have to stay in Gaza. People ask about what's the plan for the day after the war. It looks like Israel very well may have to stay in Gaza for a number of years, because every time you leave, you know, the ants come back in and they start to, and all the termites and vermin come back in. That's my wording, not the reporter. And in order to make sure that you've completely exterminated that, they may have to stay for a while.
יממה קשה של קרבות ברצועת עזה.
And this is one other such report. Tough day yesterday in Gaza.
3 הרוגים ו12 פצועים, מתוכם 7 באורח קשה בשורת התקלויות, בעיקר באזור רפיח.
In the area of Rafiach, Israel sustained 3 Israeli soldiers were killed and 12 wounded, some wounded very seriously. Again, this part does not get played up. The pictures in the media show buildings blown up in Rafiach and all this stuff about the poor locals. What about these boys and women who have to go to fight? They don't want to be there. They don't want to be involved in this. That you don't hear about. But we do that on Sunday to make sure you hear about it. So 3 were killed, 12 were injured, some severely.
אך גם בצפון הרצועה. האירוע הקטלני, פיצוץ פיר ממולכד.
And once again, they continued finding underground tunnels where the Hamas were basing their weapons and their terrorists would wait there.
עד בתוך מבנה. חפ"ק מפקד הפלוגה הרובעית בגדוד 50 של הנחל ספג ראשון את הפגיעה, וכמה לוחמים שהיו לצידו נפגעו. לצד זאת היו גם הצלחות רבות.
Although there were 3 deaths and 12 injured, there were also many great successes in the battle in Rafiach.
במוקד הפעילות של כוחותינו, מערב רפיח. לוחמי חטיבה 401 איתרו והשמידו אתר תת-קרקעי במערב רפיח, ובו אמצעי לחימה.
In western Rafiach, they found yet another tunnel, and they found in that tunnel all kinds of weaponry, again for war.
נוסף לוחמי החטיבה פועלים כל העת לאתר עוד נתיבי הברחה משטח מצרים לתוך רפיח.
And again, they uncovered more tunnels between Rafiach and Egypt. And as you can see from those grenades and other bombs, and you could see all the weapons that they found, it's being smuggled in from Egypt. And now that's going to stop.
וכמובן עושים מאמץ לאיתור תשתיות טרור, לרבות משגרי רקטות. הלחימה ברצועה עולה שלב, לאחר כ8 חודשים במערכת הביטחון, מבינים שיש צורך להגיע להכרעה מול חמאס ושהזמן עוזר.
It's understood that after 8 months of fighting, time is pressing Israel to get the job done, and finished. So there's that.
הלחימה ברפיח צפויה להתרחב עד לשליטה מלאה בציר פילדלפי, סגירתו מעל ומתחת לקרקע, נוסף לשליטה מלאה בעיר שתוביל להשמדת חטיבת רפיח.
But Israel's going to be staying in Rafiach until they absolutely have wiped out those 4 Hamas battalions and gained complete control over the Philadelphia corridor and all those tunnels below.
הלחימה בצפון הרצועה צפויה להסתיים באזור ג'באליה בימים הקרובים, בפיצוצים אדירים של תשתיות הטרור שהותרו במרחב. אוגדה 98 שפועלת שם צפויה לעבור למשימה הבאה באזור חדש ומשמעותי בעזה.
And the struggle in the Israeli operation in Jabalia, where they already had previously won, and then they had to go back and they found more underground tunnels with more weapons, killed more terrorists, and now, since this report, they've started pulling out of Jabalia.
הדרג המדיני הבכיר מבינים שעד כה לא הושגה אף אחת ממטרות המלחמה מול חמאס ברצועה. לכן, ההבנה שיש צורך לפעול מהר ובאגרסיביות במיוחד, שהאתגר הצפוני ממתין מעבר לפינה.
The Israeli government understands that the ultimate goals of this war have not yet been accomplished. Hamas still exists and still operates, and there's increasing realization in Israel's upper circles that they've got to get this job done, and they've got to get it done thoroughly, and they've got it done quickly.
On Sunday night, we eliminated senior Hamas terrorists in a targeted strike on a compound used by Hamas in Rafah. The strike was based on precise intelligence that indicated that these terrorists, who were responsible for orchestrating and executing terror attacks against Israelis, were meeting inside the specific structure we targeted. Following the strike, due to an unforeseen circumstances, a fire ignited, tragically taking the lives of Gazan civilians nearby. Despite our efforts to minimize civilian casualties during the strike, the fire that broke out was unexpected and unintended. This is a devastating incident which we did not expect. We are investigating what caused the fire that resulted in this tragic loss of life. The investigation is ongoing. The strike was conducted using 2 munitions with small warheads suited for this targeted strike. We're talking about munition with 17 kilos of explosive material. This is the smallest munition that our jets can use. Following this strike, a large fire ignited for reasons that are still being investigated. Our munition alone could not have ignited a fire of this size. I want to repeat it. Our munition alone could not have ignited a fire of this size. Our investigation seeks to determine what may have caused such a large fire to ignite. We are looking into all possibilities, including the option that weapons stored in a compound next to our target, which we did not know of, may have ignited as a result of the strike. This incident is being investigated by the General Staff Fact-Finding and Assessment Mechanism, an independent and professional body that is investigating the circumstances of those killed in the area of the strike. This investigation will be swift, comprehensive, and transparent.
As you know, Israeli intelligence, they record, they pick up discussions. That's part of what intelligence and spies do. And they caught literally a conversation between 2 Gazans regarding that strike. What happened?
بعدين قعدهم دخيرة لأن صوت السلاح بدأ يتفجر وشمت المسار بعد رفيق هذا بحكي مستودع سلاح طلع يعني خلطوه.
It didn't create a large hole.
اليهود مش قوية يعني صاروخ صغير لأنه مش واحد جورة كبيرة وعندها يطلع توابع لتفجيرات كتير.
אנחנו התכנסנו כאן הבוקר לתפילה גדולה.
We did this once before, a prayer by a bunch of young ladies for the armed forces of Israel. We're going to have another prayer at the end, but in the context of what we just covered, this was a gathering in honor and memory of two particular young men, one of whom was killed in battle and one of whom was a hostage. And the mother of each was present for this prayer.
ניגפים לפניהם. הקדוש ברוך הוא ישמור ויציל את חיילינו מכל צרה וצוקה ומכל נגע ומחלה. ישלח ברכה והצלחה בכל מעשה ידיהם. ידבר שונאינו תחתיהם. יעטרם בכתר ישועה ובתר ניצחון, ויקוים בהם הכתוב.
Israeli strikes on two tent encampments in southern Gaza have killed dozens of Palestinians this week, including 21 on Tuesday, as Israeli forces push deeper into the city of Rafah. The Biden administration says a Sunday night strike on a Rafah tent city that killed 45 did not cross any red lines for the U.S., but had this warning about any ground operations into the city.
The president said that should that occur, then it might make him have to make different decisions in terms of support. We haven't seen that happen at this point.
Israeli officials say they can't stop until they root out all remaining Hamas fighters dug into Rafah. But relief agencies report the fighting has made it nearly impossible to provide aid there. And United Nations officials warn displaced Palestinians are on the brink of starvation.
Aid must enter Rafah on a massive scale through as many crossing points as possible.
Now a temporary floating pier built by the U.S. to transfer food, water, and aid supplies into Gaza is out of commission after being damaged by rough seas.
The rebuilding and repairing of the pier will take at least over a week, and following completion will need to be re-anchored to the coast of Gaza.
Israel's national security advisor said Wednesday that he expects the fighting in Gaza to continue until at least the end of the year. In Washington, Caroline Shively, Fox 32, Chicago.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in congratulating Senator John Fetterman.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I have to raise these.
This was last Sunday at Yeshiva University's 93rd commencement. Unlike some of the other commencements, this one did not have to be canceled.
Thank you. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for this incredible honor. I mean, it's an honor, true. It's an honor to be with you all here today and to be included and be a small part in this incredible celebration. And I salute all of you for this huge accomplishment on this very special day at this very, very special university. Honestly, I was truly humbled and blown away when I was invited. And then I did some research, and then I discovered that last year's already, he helped invent Iron Dome. And I don't belong in that company. I truly don't. I really don't. I'm just a senator with a big mouth that happens to be committed to standing with Israel. And my voice and my office will stand with Israel. While I was putting together my speech, and I started to reflect the way probably all of you do, and I was reflecting, and it's like, where's my last graduation? And that was literally a quarter century ago, 25 years ago. And I was graduating from Harvard University. But today, I have been profoundly disappointed the way Harvard's inability to stand up for the Jewish community after October 7th. And for me personally, I do not fundamentally believe that it's right for me to wear this today. Of course, we cannot ignore the somber context of today. In fact, on my wrist, I'm wearing the wristband from the Nova Music Festival. It was given to me by a family member from someone that was taken hostage. They met in my office. If you look at it and read,
There it was, October 7th, 2023. It's a constant reminder of the horrors of that day. The Jewish community everywhere deserves our support, and I promise you will always have mine. And I will not stop speaking out against until every last hostage is brought back home now. And
remember also what makes him extraordinary is that he's a Democrat in an era when the Democrats either have turned against Israel or have become quiet, have basically decided, well, we would be more pro-Israel, but it's not good for our base of voters. This guy, John Fetterman, who ran for Senate and was regarded really as a nobody, he had a position in Pittsburgh and he got elected, but it was thought he's really going to be a yutz. Had certain mental, psychological problems that were publicly known. He shows up in the US Senate walking around in shorts and a t-shirt, violating every rule of proper decorum in the Senate. And, you know, a lot of people said, what's this guy doing here? He's kind of like a bum. Turns out he's kind of a hero. Despite every pressure that other Democrats have put on him, he absolutely has not backed down 1 ounce, 1 inch. And it's been very public that he has made, after certain things like the dropping of the bomb that led to the 34 or 35 Arabs getting killed, or attacks on the hospital that we've covered in the past, and you've got Democrats attacking. And then the pro-Israel Democrats, there are those, they're just quiet, shtum. They just don't want to be quoted, and they don't want to become the subject of Twitter storms, and they're just quiet. So the haters go public, and nobody stops them, and the pro-Israel voice is very muted, very quiet. This guy is not quiet. He stands out uniquely among all the Democrats in the Senate. And every time he comes under heavy attack from the outright anti-Israel Democrats like Chris Van Hollen of Maryland and Chris Coons, truly anti-Semitic, Fetterman will not back down. So Yeshiva University made him they gave him the honorary doctorate. Last year, as he said, they gave it to the guy who created the Iron Dome, the main guy. So I just want to point out for those who don't know, the extraordinary aspect of who Fetterman is and what he's turned into.
One of my very most proud moments as a United States Senator was voting for billions of aid for Israel with no conditions to allow Israel to push back that kind of singular evil force. But joy can coexist with tragedy. And today, we can never forget, today is a day of celebration for all of you and all of these families here today. Just like you, my heart is with all the hostages and their families, and for all of the victims of October 7th. My heart is also with Israeli soldiers defending their country. And I actually grieve for all the innocent Palestinian children and women that Hamas is responsible for taking. But my heart is also with you here right now, and for all of your families, celebrating the incredible achievements and your very, very bright future. two things are true at the same time. We feel the weight of October 7th here today, but it is also a beautiful day. Your families are here. You have the rest of your lives ahead of you. This is a big accomplishment, and you have so much to celebrate. Thank you again for allowing me to be a part of this, for this honor, and my heartfelt congratulations to all of the graduates and all the families here today. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Bring in former Trump foreign policy advisor and Fox News contributor Kyron Skinner, along with Israeli Special Operations counterterrorism veteran Aaron Cohen. Thank you both for coming on. We always appreciate it. We know that withholding, Aaron Cohen, to you, withholding weapons from Israel is detrimental to Israel. It's beneficial for Hamas. It's amazing to me because Secretary of State Antony Blinken says that he thinks maybe Hamas might be the best answer. Watch this answer.
Israel has not acted in a manner that's consistent with international humanitarian law. A lot of armed Hamas will be left, no matter what they do in Rafah. Or if they leave and get out of Gaza, as we believe they need to do, then you're going to have a vacuum, and a vacuum that's likely to be filled by chaos, by anarchy, and ultimately by Hamas again.
So I guess what he's saying is that they just stop. Just stop what you're doing, everything right now, and just go back to the way it was.
Trace, the only reason why Rafah is the center of the remaining battalions of Hamas is because Israel has conducted the Sir Lachatz, or the pressure cooker campaign, which forced all of the remnants of the terror group into Rafah. The way you conduct counterterror operations in the most significant, densely populated warfare that we've seen in years is by not only selective operations, but by going into Rafah. Those units need to clear all those 90-degree angles. They need to get barrels inside of rooms. They need to get those drones inside. That's the nature of unconventional warfare, in this case, special warfare. So Blinken is absolutely wrong. He's almost lying. I feel like this is personal between the White House and whatever relationship they have with Bibi. It's just a bad attempt to.
And then you get to the information war, Kyron Skinner, because now we know that they have lowered the death toll in Gaza. And it says here, UN seemingly halves estimates of Gazan women, children killed. On May 6th, the UN published data showing that 34,000 plus people reportedly been killed in Gaza, including 9,500 women, 14,500 children. 2 days later, May 8th, the UN published data showing 34,844, including 4,959 women, 7,000, so half the number of women and half the number of kids. We absolutely desperately need accurate information because the information that we have inflames parts of the world, as we have seen.
And what's so sad about those numbers is that it's a humanitarian organization at the United Nations, not exactly a friend of Washington, that has said the numbers have to be lowered. And so it's not even the administration itself. It should be our State Department producing evidence that the numbers that the health ministry in Gaza is in fact wrong. And that the health ministry, it's not telling us the truth either, is controlled by Hamas. So the numbers are never right. And that puts everything that comes out of Gaza, that Israel has hit a hospital, that Israel has hit a humanitarian truck, it puts it all under a suspect way of looking at what's going on. If you can't get the information right, you can't get the strategy right.
And this administration continues to parrot what's coming out of Hamas and of Gaza. The New York Times investigation, secret Hamas files show how it spied on everyday Palestinians. Goes on to say, quote, the documents show that Hamas leaders, despite claiming to represent the people of Gaza, would not tolerate even a whiff of dissent. Security officials trailed journalists and people they suspected of immoral behavior. Agents got criticism, removed from social media, and discussed ways to defame political adversaries. Political protests were viewed as threats to be undermined. I mean, this is what you're talking about. The same thing that happens in Iran is it is the government against their people, and that's what we're seeing in Gaza.
That's anywhere else.
Do you know what NYU is doing? About what? About Israel. Why are we protesting?
There are a bunch of kids who have no idea what they believe or why they are even at these protests. Check out this video. This is extraordinary.
And what would you say is the main goal with tonight's protest?
I think the goal is just showing our support for Palestine and demanding that NYU stops. I honestly don't know all of what NYU's doing.
Is there something that NYU's doing?
I really don't know. I'm pretty sure they're... Do you know what NYU's doing? About what? About Israel. Why are we protesting here?
Palestine will be free!
I wish I was more educated. I'm not either.
Oh.
I came from Columbia. I was there up at Columbia and we came down. They decided NYU students needed our support. So I came down. I heard there's lots of cops. Some people were saying it was getting dangerous.
Did you catch that? She's a Columbia student who doesn't know why she's protesting, and she's protesting at NYU, okay? NYU down by Union Station. If you know anything about New York City, Columbia up Upper West Side, high Upper West Side. So she got on the train, she went all the way down there to get down there and not know why she's there in the first. And the friend, well, I wish we were more educated on this. The friend who's obviously a wizard, I mean, she's wearing a mask, for God's sakes.
Those people told you for days in advance that if the university sought to go ahead with that construction, they were going to physically destroy the university. Now, why did you
negotiate many times?
Negotiate? What is to negotiate? What is? What it was
University is a public institution.
That's right. But the university,
for its own community and for the community of Berkeley that live around it.
All of it began the first time some of you who know better and are old enough to know better let young people think that they had the right to choose the laws they would obey as long as they were doing it in the name of social protest.
Were women murdered at the music festival?
They were.
Was that justified?
Yes.
I'm Adam Gillette with Accuracy in Media. Today we've brought our Anti-Semitism Accountability Project to Seattle, Washington, where anti-Semitic educator Ian Golash is openly pro-Hamas and also endorses ethnic cleansing. He even makes flyers for students promoting ethnic cleansing. Yet despite this, the Seattle public school system has done nothing to hold him accountable. That's where we step in. Hey, good afternoon. What do you think about Ian Golash and his anti-Semitism? What are your thoughts?
I don't like it, honestly. How has he not been fired yet? Like, I've read his posts. He's anti-Semitic.
Have you had him as a teacher?
I actually am a part of his class right now. He's taking us out as an example of free speech.
So he's taking you out of the class to us right now?
Yeah, he's right down there.
Mr. Golash, how are you?
I'm doing great.
I think one child dying is terrible, but I would never endorse killing women at a music festival. But you said that was merely resistance to oppression, is that right?
No, that's not what I said.
Your post said that oppressors don't get to choose the form of resistance used against them. You didn't write that?
That is true.
Well, then was what happened to Israel on October 7th justified?
Yes.
The rape of women at a music festival was justified.
Where's the evidence that there was rape?
Were women murdered at the music festival?
They were.
Was that justified?
Yes.
The murder of innocent women just attending a music festival, that was justified in your opinion?
No. I think resistance against Israel is justified, yes.
Is America an oppressor state?
Yeah.
Would it then be acceptable to go to Bonnaroo or Lollapalooza and kill a bunch of civilians?
It's just like a stupid argument.
So, Mr. Golash, how many arrests is it? Is it 2? Did you say all cops are bastards before or after the arrests?
Since day one.
And all cops? Every cop is a bastard?
Yeah.
The cops who ran inside the buildings on 9/11 and saved civilians, were they bastards as well?
All cops are bastards.
There's genuine injustices going on in the world, but then the people who back those injustices are so radical that they end up just looping back around to the things that I don't support.
Mr. Golash is said that he was a communist. I have a friend who's in one of his classes, and he was supposed to write an essay on how capitalism was bad, but...
Was that the assignment?
I believe so, yeah. But to my knowledge, there has been no communist country that has worked well for the people at all.
Nobody really wants to talk to him and like explain what he did wrong, but they like really don't like him.
Do most students know about his arrest record?
I do. I don't know if a lot of other people do, but I do.
Arrest record?
He has an arrest record. Yeah, you didn't know that?
He's been arrested a couple times.
That does not surprise me at all.
Yeah, no, he's a troubled individual.
The district sent out some kind of statement about Golash, right?
Yeah, they basically said that they weren't going to fire him. That's kind of it.
Do you think they did anything to hold him accountable?
No, they didn't do anything.
Were parents outraged?
Mine were.
Get you guys to take that over there, please.
Sure. What are your thoughts on the district employing anti-Semites?
I don't want to talk about it, man.
No thoughts at all?
No, no. No thoughts.
Okay. Well, we'll stay on public property. Hey, good afternoon. What do you think about this? This guy's an anti-Semite and a Seattle public school teacher.
It's upsetting what's been going on the far left with stuff like this that's going on.
Any other thoughts?
I don't like anti-Semitism.
Hear, hear. Cheers, man. Have a great day.
President Holloway, is physically blocking students from entering your campus based on their race, religion, or ethnicity an expellable offense?
I'm sorry, could you, the very beginning of the question?
Is physically blocking students from entering your campus based on their race, religion, or ethnicity an expellable offense?
That's certainly a violation of our university standards, sir.
Is it an expellable offense?
Potentially it would be, sir. It would depend on the circumstance of that specific instance.
President Schill, is excluding students, blocking students from entering campus based on their race, religion, or ethnicity an expellable offense at your university?
I would imagine it is a violation of our conduct code.
Is it an expellable offense?
I'm sorry?
Is it an expellable offense to physically obstruct students from entering campus?
A range of disciplines up to and including being expelled for violation.
Chancellor Block, is physically stopping students from entering your campus based on their race, religion, or ethnicity an expellable offense?
Again, there's a disciplinary process for students. It could be.
Can we please play a video?
Everybody, look at this. Look at this. I'm a UCLA student. I deserve to go here. We pay tuition. This is our school. And they're not letting me walk in. My class is over there. I want to use that entrance. Why can't I go? Will you let me go in? This could be over in a second. Just let me and my friends go in to class.
We're not engaging in that.
Then you can move. Will you move?
We're not engaging in that.
Okay, we're going. We're going. I'm going in. I have my hands up. I'm not hurting them.
Chancellor Block, were those students who formed the blockade, do you know?
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Were those students who formed that blockade?
I don't know whether they're students or non-affiliates. I don't know. They were masked.
You don't know?
I do not know.
Have any of them been disciplined?
Have any been disciplined yet?
Those people on the video who formed the blockade, have they been disciplined?
After the response, after we learned about that, I sent a message to all of our student affairs people to make sure the pathways are open for everyone, and I sent a message out to our community.
So I'm going to take that as a no. We have the evidence right here on video. A student being blocked from entering your campus based on his Jewish identity, and there's been no consequence whatsoever. Is that what you're telling us?
No, I did not say that. I said this is being investigated, and we'll see what happens with the disciplinary process. I did not say that.
President Schill, if the Deering Meadows agreement, if the university does not live up to its end of the bargain, do the protesters have a right to reestablish the encampment?
The protest on Deering Meadow, any encampment on Deering Meadow, is a violation of the university's
Yes, but you
conduct
reached
code.
an agreement where you said that that the encampment will disband if, and you agreed to certain conditions. So if you don't follow those conditions, can the encampment reestablish itself?
We are planning on following those conditions.
But if you don't, would they be within their rights to reestablish the encampment?
That is a hypothetical issue. If I commit to something, I do it.
You said you have great respect for the Anti-Defamation League. Is that correct?
I do.
And as I'm sure you're aware, the Anti-Defamation League has called for your resignation. They said President Schill capitulated to hatred and bigotry and empowered and emboldened those who have used intimidation, harassment, and violence to achieve their ends. Rather than hold them accountable as he pledged he would, President Schill gave them a seat at the table and normalized their hatred against Jewish students. Why is the ADL wrong?
I believe that at this moment, leaders need to make hard decisions. I believe that we got a good result. We were able to get rid of the major anti-Semitic event on our campus with no violence.
By institutionalizing anti-Semitism and agreeing to the demands of anti-Semites. Mr. President Schill, in my view, you are the easiest case that we have dealt with. You agreed to the demands of those who are trying to change university policy in an anti-Semitic way, and you rewarded their tactics of using force. This is what the ADL has said. It's not what I have said. Excuse me, sir. That was not a question. Excuse me, sir.
We agreed to none of the demands that were presented to us.
And here today, you announced it as the Deering Meadows Agreement. Here today, you've made preposterous statements like it wasn't practical to consult with Jewish students prior to acceding to those demands. So I would associate myself with the comments of the ADL, and I think that if the university does not move to change its leadership, then it will be endorsing that institutionalization, that normalization of anti-Semitism on campus. President Holloway, are you currently under consideration to be the president of Yale University?
No, I am not.
You are not. So you're planning to stay at Rutgers?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Thank you, sir. I yield back.
Thank you, Mr.
Now, just on the Hamas-Israel war, I want to show you an emotional response from someone who's seldom emotive. In fact, he's a very famous man who's made a career out of rejecting emotionalism and being quite cold-hearted and practical in a funny kind of way. Comedian Jerry Seinfeld is, of course, a Jewish New Yorker, and he's previously laughed off anti-Israel protesters and hecklers who have targeted him. But have a look at his reaction in this interview, his inability to find words when asked about Israel's plight.
You were in Israel since the war started. How was that trip?
The most powerful experience of my life.
Really?
I'm sure, yeah.
Why?
You know, you just...
Are you thinking of someone in particular?
Sorry.
Yeah, as you would have seen in the documentary here on Sky News last night, the toll on Jewish people around the world is heavy.
After 100 days in the war,
one thing that gets me really motivated,
The thing that keeps me fighting in this war even after 100 days.
I think my motivation is my family, my friends, those who can't fight.
The cause of this war is very important.
I think my country was hurt.
The people here, this country, it's our only home.
Every Jew who lives in Israel just doesn't have the power to fight.
Knowing the cause of what we're doing, how many lives we're saving.
All of us here together to stay strong against the enemy.
We'll do what we need to do to keep our country safe.
So we saw on the 7th of October how innocent people were slaughtered.
Inside Gaza, we have innocent civilians held there as hostages. We must bring them home.
I think people should really know that we are defending our country.
We have nowhere else to go. This is our home and this is what we will fight for.
Tzeyenu V'harei Elokeinu Mihigvul HaLevanon V'yad Midbar Mitzrayim Umin Hayam HaGadol Lalevo HaRava Bayabasha Ba'aviyim Ba'aviyim Ubayam Uyevarech Et Chayalei Zvagana Hashem et oiveinu hakamim aleinu nigafim lifneihem hakadosh baruch hu yishmor v'yatzil et chayaleinu mikol tzara v'tzuka umikol nega umachala וישלח ברכה והצלחה בכל מעשה ידיהם ויברך את חיילי צבא ברצוננו תחתיהם ויהדרם בכתר ישועה ובעטרת ניצחון ויקוים בהם הכתוב ויקוים בהם הכתוב כי אדוני אלוהיכם ההולך עמכם והילחם לכם עם אויביכם להושיע אתכם
Thanks so much for being here today. There's no need for any apologies, for Israel to give any apologies in any of the battles. And I've begun thinking more and more that it was a very big mistake from day one to adopt a slogan of bring them home. Because the slogan bring them home implies someone should be bringing them home. Who? The United Nations? They're not going to bring them home. The International Court of Justice or the International Criminal Court, Court of Criminals? They're not going to bring them home. The United States? Biden has not even brought home the Americans who were being held hostage. Not going to bring home Israelis. When we acted to help free Soviet Jewry, the slogan was not bring them out. The slogan was let them out, let my people go. And the slogan ought to have been and should be let them go. And that's what people should be yelling and hearing. Let them go. The spotlight should be spotlighted on the idea that no one has the right to take hostages in battle. It's just not done. When America went to war, frankly, even Russia, you don't take hostages. That's not how war is fought. You might have prisoners of war, POWs, hostages of war, HOW, there's no such thing. And until every one of those hostages is free, that alone justifies Israel continuing to fight. And the idea that civilians get killed, they shouldn't be there. They should get, would you, if you were living there, would you not have been among those 1 million who got out of the way? And they should have left long before. And they could have gotten out. They could have gotten out long before the war. If you object to living in a country where Hamas is popularly elected by the leadership, then you want to get out of there. And it might be hard to get out. You could get out. There are Arabs all over the world, France, England, changing the country's politics. They could get out. Those who did not get out, they took a chance. And for Israel to sit and wait and worry that every time they try to knock out a tunnel or kill some Hamas guy, that someone's going to get hurt, that just doesn't exist in any war anywhere. And until those hostages are free, and until Hamas does what Ulysses S. Grant demanded of, and with this I close, what Ulysses S. Grant, long before the final showdown at Appomattox with General Lee, in an earlier battle, he won a battle over one of those forts, and the losing general said, we are prepared now to cease fire and to send a team to you to negotiate the nature and method terms of our surrender. We're ready to surrender. We immediately will stop firing and just want to negotiate our surrender. Not that we're going to, and Grant, with the victory in his hand, responded, because what they meant was, do we get to keep our swords? Do we get to go home? Or are you going to take us hostage and prisoners? And Grant said, unconditional surrender. We're not going to negotiate terms of your surrender. Unconditional. And Grant became president of the United States, 18th president. That's the American way. And that's the way all over the world. In fact, that was a nice way. It was pretty peaceful the way it ended. So